Welcome to the Fighters Mindset Podcast, guys. Today we've got a very special guest who's been making a huge impact on the strength and conditioning and nutrition landscape for combat sport athletes. Very excited to speak to him because a lot of our beliefs on how the sport has evolved and the need for coaches and fighters to evolve along with it is very important, not only on the physical, but also the mental landscape as well. Our guest today started off in powerlifting, then became a combat sport athlete himself, and now he runs one of the biggest businesses out there helping combat sports athletes. Introducing the one and only Coach Kyz. Kieran, welcome on board,
Pleasure
bro.
to be here, mate. Thank you.
So before we get straight into it, give me a quick little elevator speech over your background and your business now.
Absolutely, yes. I run the Combat Engine, a performance consulting company for combat sport athletes, like you mentioned. As you said as well, nicely, and you mentioned I was a special guest, which I appreciate. I started in powerlifting. I come from an exercise science degree as my university level of education. Was lifting under the influence of my older brother's journey as a powerlifter, and he was a physiotherapist himself, and then kind of got bored of the whole lifting scope, space, and decided to not be a fan of combat sports anymore and dive in there myself. And eventually it's led to me, from going from hitting a pad in the Muay Thai gym to coaching these athletes one-on-one all around the world using the expertise I've developed over the years.
Yeah, beautiful. When did you start in the sport?
The first time I started, I was at the very end of 2022.
So relatively new as well.
Yeah, I was always watching combat sports from pretty young, I guess, in my mid-teens, but never actually took the jump to hop in a gym.
Oh, that's interesting, because even when I look at it, like for myself, I started like 22, 23 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a time when Thai style was the only style. So long runs, long pad rounds, and my coach, Darren Ridley-Reese, one of the most famous coaches in Australia, lots of world champions. And he's evolved a lot in his style of training.
Yeah.
But 20 years ago, we had a pull-up and dip bar. So at the end of training, it's a handful of push-ups, a handful of pull-ups.
Yeah.
And that was all the conditioning we did. Our weight cut was Wednesday. You cut out most of your food. You start sweating all the way to Friday.
Yeah.
So it was brutal back then. So I think it's been very much evolved since then. But even today, there's so much topic over that. And we'll get into the first component, which is, how have you seen the evolution of combat sports athletes and the sport itself?
The evolution overall, I think there's a lot of fantastic coaches these days, like yourself, come from the background of a Riddler gym or a Strike Force in Queensland that are super or exceptional really at their job of coaching the skill. I think now we're seeing a blend of the science-based approach and that level of skill development. They're kind of seeing a crossover these days as of the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years with people like myself emerging in the space. And I think we're going to see a generation that, this might be a polarizing opinion, but the next generation of fighters I think will surpass overall the performance, the longevity, the health metrics you might see across older generations of fighters compared to now. We're going to see a big shift over the years, long term, because it's still a relatively new thing. The sports performance, the research, the data actually out there for combat sport athletes, it's very minimal in the end. So we're doing what we can with what we have, and just like you guys would have done 20 years ago, that's all we're doing back then. So
it's all you knew back then.
Exactly. So we're just doing a better job of that now, and things are evolving in a positive way, I feel.
It's really interesting because the combat sports space, I've been in it for now 23 years. And for the first 10 years, it was very secluded. It was like Muay Thai was kind of creeping up somewhere. There was boxing, that was the big business, but not much else that you really knew about. And then there was like all the Kung Fu and karate bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
And then I've always said it, somewhere along the line, I reckon about 10, 12 years ago, with UFC and CrossFit, and not to trigger you, I know, most of us dislike CrossFit nowadays. It really revolutionized the entire fitness landscape. So UFC in overnight just showed everyone, sorry to the martial artists, that karate's bullshit, like especially modernized karate and combat sports, mixed martial arts, Muay Thai. These are the actual combat sports now. And then back then, like 20 years ago, if you wanted to go to a gym, you either went to a karate dojo or you went to like a Good Life and you ran on a treadmill and did bicep curls.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, combat sports blew up, and everywhere now are Muay Thai, MMA, BJJ clubs, and everyone has a strength and conditioning style gym.
Yeah.
Even the big commercial gyms have now got CrossFit rigs, like monkey bars, all of these different movement style elements. So it's amazing for all of us because on one aspect is the athlete's development. We're getting, as you said, even though it's new, it's becoming so modernized and a lot more healthy. And there's so much business behind it now as well.
Yeah.
Whether you're a gym owner, whether you're a strength and conditioning specialist, mindset, the actual coach, the athletes that are now making businesses out of it. It's got so much potential. So I want to talk about old school versus modern training and how you've seen that develop. Like I said, for myself, it's been night and day difference over 20 years.
Yeah.
How have you noticed it in your period of time, 5, 6, 7 years?
Yeah, I think what I see a lot, even these days, that's sort of carried on with that shift is, like, if I'm going to talk through, I guess, the few hundred consultations I've taken over the past year, I think 70% of the athletes I've spoken to, their problem is, which, like I mentioned, it's probably carried into the modern day, is a skills coach or from a business standpoint will take over the strength and conditioning component of an athlete's regime within the group setting of the actual gym itself. Mm-hmm. And you might have a circuit-based type class that, you know, the skills coach might hear. It's not always a skills coach as well. It could be like a separate employee thing, could be a separate, I guess, avenue the business has taken, which is amazing. It's another revenue stream. I love it. But when it comes to that athlete-specific development, my job, I found I'm stepping in and filling that gap where some athletes realize or don't realize, which is I've got to make people aware of it, that the group setting they're exposing themselves to isn't going to help them jump, lift, throw, bend, rotate, do dedicated conditioning work in the way that's individualized for them.
Yep.
And if I can help people pull away from, I guess, if I look at the old school mentality that's weaved into that environment for athletes, it's, I guess, the pack mentality, the herd mentality. Mm-hmm. You've got to stick with it. Okay, my skills coach tells me to do this. I have to do it.
Loyalty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when can loyalty harm us in a way?
Yep.
That's where I can sort of step in, bridge the gap. I love communicating with skills coaches and, being under the wing of a skills coach myself when I was competing in Muay Thai myself. I know what it's like to interact with someone who might have had that mindset, and seeing that relationship improve between the athlete, their relationship with the sport, their coach, and then spreading, I guess, more of a science-based approach through their gym. That's the only positive impact I want to have in the end, and because it's going to mean that person can improve long term. But that's I think it's slowly draining out, and that's where I've stepped in to kind of help.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is, again, back in my generation, I'm predominantly Muay Thai specific. We had a handful of coaches this is going in WA, but it was like that through all the states, who had lived and trained in Thailand and had just brought the sport along.
Yeah.
Then they raised their fighters who became coaches based on the way they were coached.
Yeah.
Then their fighters, those coaches had their own fighters. And now I think we're like 5th, 6th, 7th generation fighters, where they're really starting to understand. And this is where, props to a lot of the coaches that get me on board as well for the mindset, is every element, it can't fall on the main coach.
Yeah.
Your Muay Thai coach can't be your nutritionist, can't be your strength and conditioning coach, can't be your mindset coach and your skills coach. I think where it's still a very difficult part is there's not enough money and time for a lot of these athletes.
Yeah.
So they're working their full-time jobs, they're committing to this. But again, like myself and a lot of the good quality coaches, they're like, you've got a few years in the sport. Do you want to commit to this sport and make the best out of it? Therefore, it needs to be your priority.
100%.
I think one of the points that you made, which is so important, and coaches and fighters need to definitely understand this, is you can have a strength and conditioning circuit, but it's not individualized. A lot of coaches get me on board and I do a mindset seminar. And the seminar can only really talk about the foundational parts. And look, maybe for an amateur athlete, someone at a lower level that's starting off, that foundational conditioning can be really beneficial. That foundational mindset can be really beneficial.
Absolutely.
But as you start progressing in this sport, making it individualized is such an important part. And I think one of the parts that a lot of fighters struggle with, when they first start off, they see all the motivational videos, they see all the elite level athletes and their fighters, and they think, 6 months, I'm going to be a champ.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've heard you talk about, which I love as well, is expectations versus the reality of progress. How have you found the unrealistic expectation of fighters are versus implementing what reality and what actual progress should look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a topic I love, because the funny thing about this is it's paradoxical, because if you take the long-term approach and you aim to implement some longevity into your routine, you think about where this is going to take you, not for the next camp, but where it's going to take you in 2 to 3 years from now when you're holding the belt you want. If you do things with that in mind, you get the quickest results.
Yes.
Because often athletes are coming from an overtrained environment, underfueled environment. They're like you mentioned, the expectations of the progress they can achieve, they've gradually overestimated what they can do in a short time frame, but compared to what they can do on a long time frame. But then when you adjust these little things, like their sleeping habits, their training load, how many calories they're getting in, like for some reason a lot of fighters are skipping breakfast. I don't know why. There's a common thing that they've all decided to fast all of a sudden. Even the last few consults I've taken this week, all of them have said, I'm like, oh, what does a full day of eating look like for you? Oh, well, I don't really eat breakfast. Why? Why does it keep coming up? I don't know where it's come from, but it's good that I can help them with that. But
because of the intermittent fasting fad out there.
They think there's some sort of autophagy benefit over what a calorie deficit would do anyway, but that's a topic for another time, I guess. Yeah. But if I help them fuel correctly for their training schedule, I look at their work-life balance as well with their training, which is very important. Some people don't consider that. They go, oh yeah, I'm a sparky, I'm a plumber. Okay, you're clocking 15, 20K steps a day. You're not even considering that in your fueling. We take care of that. You stop the circuits. You actually you do time effective, really good bang for your buck sessions, and you get that done under guidance. You're honestly seeing results within the first 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because your sleep has all of a sudden, you're not tossing and turning because you didn't realize the caffeine you were having the late at night was keeping you up at night. So these things, if you take the long-term approach as early as you can, you're going to achieve better results, not only short-term, but long-term as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I always teach the fighters that I work with is to zoom out. Don't zoom in and just look at the next fight camp. Don't zoom in and look at the next few weeks. If you're serious about this sport, zoom out and look at the long-term development. Now, whether that means doing the proper calories, training, or even understanding what losses mean. I think a lot of fighters, when they first start off, and even unfortunately as they progress through their career, the concept of the ego takes charge. And I always tell people, your ego is the identity you show the world to be accepted by the world. So a lot of people go into fighting for a lot of the wrong reasons. Now, we always talk about those reasons are a powerful fuel at the beginning, but you quickly hit those roadblocks. And a lot of fighters hit some disastrous moments, which is the next topic I want to discuss. And eating disorders that come around nutrition, how weight cuts massively implement that, and also defining the difference, which, I think a lot of coaches need to realize, the difference between men and women in that nutrition landscape. So eating disorders, how have you found that? And not to answer it for you, but I think a really important part here is understanding the fact that we don't look at nutrition so carefully. These eating disorders come on board without people even realizing they've got an eating disorder in the sport now.
Absolutely, 100%. Most people don't realize it in the first place, which is a massive point. You don't know what you don't know in this space, and like any space, you're a business owner, you're whatever sort of space you can think of. You don't know what you don't know, and that alone should be a reason enough to hire a mentor, hire a coach, get someone who's got experience, who's made the mistakes before you, who's helped people with the exact situation you're exposed to. But when it comes to ED, I guess the two biggest reasons it would come up is, one, picking the wrong weight class and trying to, have some sort of size advantage and pushing yourself too hard to make a weight just for some arbitrary reason. Like some people go as far as just like their coach looking at them going, yeah, you'd be good at 70 kilos. And they go, I've rolled with that my whole career, but where did you actually come up with that?
So this isn't just for the fighters, this is for the fucking coaches to listen to as well.
It's because there was only one person hopping in there, but you got a team in the end. It takes multiple people to get someone in there in a healthy way or an unhealthy way, which is what we're seeing a lot of these days. But yeah, I guess the weight class is very important. And I think, which you'd heavily relate to as well, you would have seen this plenty, the psychological ramifications of a bad fight week
Huge.
That can literally be the thing that tips someone off from, I guess, or not tip someone off, but project someone's path into a good direction or a bad direction after a given fight. Literally just the fight week itself. You can have a fantastic camp.
Yep.
And you can survive the the balls to the wall training. You can look at a reel online that says you should eat more carbs. That helps you out. Cool. You get to fight week. All right, now there's a different science-based approach I've got to take, but I don't have the system for this.
Yep.
I'm going to run in a sweatsuit. I'm going to cut all of my sodium, all of my carbs out, do a ridiculously aggressive water load, put stress on my kidneys, stop sweating in the bath, and then just scrape by and make weight or miss weight. And then, what's the next step? The refuel. Do I have a scientific approach for that? Oh no, I'm just going to smash a bunch of electrolytes and eat a bowl of pasta and hope for the best. When
that sounds like 90% of the people after weigh-ins.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then then you got fighters who are so mentally tough as well. Like, get through that. But how many times can you do that before you haven't realized, zooming out, I've gained 2 to 3 extra kilos each fight camp at the beginning of each fight camp, and you're turning each fight camp into a fat camp.
Yep.
Rather than something that's meant to bring the best out of your performance.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, the first, years 1 to 5 of your career, 1 to 3 of your career have been phenomenal, up until a certain point where it becomes a bit too stressful, and then your drastic cutting of calories from removing whole food groups doesn't work anymore.
Yep.
And at that point, it's already too late, right? And you can make some changes, you can come back, but that's what most fighters are risking, doing things themselves or just relying on one person. And you've only got yourself to blame at that point. And if you do delegate early enough, it'll be phenomenal for your journey, and you'll avoid things like ED. And I guess the biggest thing, the biggest presentation I've seen of that is, even now, like, for some reason, there's a obsession around avoiding sugar. It's like your health looks different in different contexts. Peak performance for athletes is different for peak performance for someone who's working a desk job and doing Muay Thai as a hobby.
Yep.
Health is different for that person. Yes, they can. 95% of the food should be whole foods.
Mm-hmm.
For the athlete who's training twice a day with extra strength and conditioning on top, who also works full time, it's probably healthier for this guy to smash a packet of Sour Patch Kids here and there instead of trying to get it all in through potato and apples.
Yeah.
So knowing that and removing the resistance on that can be helpful. Again, there's so many layers you can pull from me to avoid that. But how do you do it all yourself,
I think one of the biggest keys that we need to understand as well, and one of the biggest things I work with fighters when it comes to mindset, is that you shouldn't be going into fighting and having a fight camp just to get your life in order. So a lot of fighters go, I'm disciplined. It's like, nah, bro, you're 3 weeks away from getting your head kicked in.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's disciplined when you're about to get KO'd. Like, if you're overweight, if you got to make weight, if you got to fight, in those moments you're disciplined.
Absolutely.
Who are you outside of the fight? And I think one of the biggest evolutions that's happened in combat sports is now we are combat athletes. You're not just a fighter. This identity isn't just about you're a hard, tough fighter. We're actual athletes, and you need to perform like an athlete all year round. I know one of the things that you're a big advocate on, and so am I, is not blowing out just because the bell rang and it's finished.
Yeah.
Making sure you're consistently on point. Yes, you can fluctuate a little bit on your diet. You can enjoy life a little bit more outside of fight camp. But if you're out of the gym for months on end, if you've blown out, like, I know fighters, man, like, they're like 15 kilos off from their weight. They get matched. They come in and they're starving themselves for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Not to go too far down the specifics, but what do you consider a healthy weight cut to be?
Yeah.
On the last week. So wake up Monday morning, weigh-ins Friday night.
Okay, on the last
What
week.
percentage do you think that should be?
Well, I like to gather data, but generally, and it'll change on it depending on the athlete, but on fight week, like the heaviest you'd want to be above the weight class is like 6 to 8% above the weight class maximum. That's top end.
Yeah. So like a 70 kilo fighter, you're talking about like, 5 kilos at the very max.
Yeah. Like it should be. It's a mathematical equation. Like if you're given 10 weeks, there's X amount of calories you can have to lose a certain amount of or establish a rate of loss per week. Figure out the weight class, do a backwards formulation from there, and then it's not going to be the same every week. You're going to have different things that influence the fluctuation of weight. But yeah, you like 8 to 10 weeks out, you should be max 10 to 12.5% above, and then you should be gradually. And some people might listen to that and go, oh, but then what's going to happen with the 6 to 8% on the last week? People drastically underestimate how much healthier it is to lose 6 to 8% of your body weight on fight week with a really well-established baseline of carbohydrates and fiber and great hydration strategies and really solid heat acclimation habits. If you've built that baseline up, one, you can keep your calories super high for as long as possible in a camp and give your best to the training camp and not feel like you're dragging your feet through mud. A lot of people can't even, like, they get 4 weeks into fight camp and they can't even sleep anymore, and they're taking medication. Or, it's ridiculous. But my aim is I've actually ditched the whole principle of my past content. You might have seen like minimal effective dose.
Yep.
Effective dose. Minimal effective dose isn't a thing for me anymore. It's like, this is the effective dose.
Yeah, take it.
You're not gonna get anything more out of doing anything extra. The extra I'm talking about there is, fighters drastically cutting calories to achieve almost the same result. But then you've got no resources to pull from on fight week. So these ranges are important. Like, I think, like you mentioned, someone's coming into fight camp 15 kilos over their weight class. One, knowing that they should probably not take the fight in the first place and extend it out a bit further. They're also taking that fight most of the time because they're like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to prove myself and lock back in again. I don't like who I've become. But it's like this vicious cycle of 8 weeks of stuffing around and then 6 weeks of locking in. And how long can you do that for, But,
and most fighters do that their entire life. And most fighters retire and come back because of that. Like, one of the things I've always taught, and the psychology when it comes to fighting is so important in every aspect you just spoke about. Because fighters who need fighting for their life to get sorted are hitting a very dangerous path. Like, eventually everything is going to fall apart. And most fighters who need fighting for their life to work reach a point where fighting doesn't even work anymore, and then they've lost everything. And understanding that psychology, that you're coming into fighting to teach you the tools to make the best version of yourself, so then you can carry that outside. Like, one of my good friends, world champion Daniel Dawson, he said it the best way. He said, in life, we have different vehicles to get us to the destinations we want. Combat sports is an incredible vehicle to take us to the destination of becoming the best version of ourselves. And unfortunately, and this is the whole reason I created the Fighter's Mindset, because a lot of fighters leave this sport worse than when they first started. And if you speak to most fighters, one of the most disgusting parts of our sport that we want to eliminate is the weight cut. You said the importance of the last week when it comes to the fighter's mentality on fight night. You speak to any fighters, and when I do these seminars, I go, what percentage do you think fight night is mental? What percentage do you think is physical? 70 to 90% mental, 10 to 30% physical. Even an amateur will go, yeah, it's mostly mental. So if you've had this brutal weight cut, you've suffered, you haven't slept, you feel like shit, you get dragged with your undies taken off onto the scales. And then you're trying to like refuel, and you're puking and you're just suffering, and you show up to weigh in still, like the actual fight night, still suffering. How do you think your mental game's going to be? But they go, yeah, but the other guy might have 2 kilos weight on me. I'm like, bro, we've just agreed the physical part is 10%. The mental aspect is so important. On that note as well, and I say this quite openly because I think for a lot of coaches, and in the coach's defense, being a coach myself, we're also limited with the time and the education and the understanding of what's surrounding us. I think one of the things that we really struggle the most is the difference between men and women when it comes to nutritional weight cuts. Like, I've taken female fighters into the sauna to cut weight while they're on their period, and they come out heavier. Like, it's like I've always said this, men, we think we got it tough. You don't know what the fuck a female's going through. How have you found dealing the difference between female and male athletes?
I think for me, when it comes to coaching a male versus a female athlete, I'm going to address the psychological barriers they've set up for themselves. Often for a male fighter, generally, you're going to see, like, I'm going to muscle through it. Men are less, like, we're not as emotionally intelligent.
Cavemen.
Do it, cut the weight. I don't give a fuck. Women are a bit more aware of, okay, this is actually like, this is potentially going to affect me. They're still obviously extremely mentally tough, but they're going to consider it a bit more. And then part of considering that becomes aware of it. Awareness creates a different reality, and it can almost just make the fight week naturally a little bit harder than it needs to be. Like I even had one of my athletes, Shanice, who fought on Roots recently at the 50 kilo weight class. And I just noticed, like, when she started with me, and I've seen it a lot with a lot of the female athletes I've coached in the past, there's a lot more, I guess, panic and care, like, early on. And if you carry that panic too late into the camp, like, and you're always wondering if you're going to make weight, you're limiting your chances for a really healthy physiological fight week too. Like,
Absolutely.
you get in the tub and everything's gone well. If you all of a sudden you freak out again, your sweat rate actually drops. Your heart isn't settled.
Yep.
Your body temperature's all over the place. But that's just my personal experience. I guess from a physiological standpoint, like the menstrual cycle is one thing that comes up a lot. I think for me, my experience, and based on a bit of the data out there, we're going to take a generally a similar approach between the male and the female athletes, but we have to consider that you're probably going to want to give, just based from a hormonal standpoint, from I guess a muscle mass standpoint, you'd want to give female athletes more time to recoup on their rest days in camp with healthier fat sources. Really, me being a strength and conditioning coach, being able to control that too, deloading on weeks where things aren't going so well, from a check-in standpoint, so they can bring an even better performance into the next week. These things matter a lot. But for me, my approach is generally just backing them that they're actually going to be okay. Because they care a lot more. They care about the science a lot more.
They're a lot more emotionally aware as well.
They ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I think I reframe it. If I have an athlete who happens to be a female who's panicking about the situation, whether we're 4 weeks out or 12 weeks out, I kind of just I pull the reins on it and go, like, you're going to be okay. Just follow the plan. You're like, look at it objectively. Did training go bad this week? No. Are you losing weight at the right rate? Yes. If we keep this up, are you going to make weight? Do you see any reason why you wouldn't? No? Cool. Let's keep going. That's a lot of time it's just been that with me and my female athletes, and we end up making weight just fine, refueling well.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any major physiological sort of differences play a part in whether it was going to be a harder or easier weight cut across the population I've coached. But I guess, like, for you on your end, have you had any sort of experience with that?
Yeah, significantly. Look, like you said, women are a lot more emotionally aware, and I want to tiptoe around the words I'm going to use. You're right, women feel the emotions significantly more, and the psychology that they have affects the physiology significantly more.
Yeah.
Women who start working with me on their mindset, when they're stressed, when they're anxious, when they're nervous, when their eating issues become a big factor, what ends up happening is their body traps a lot more. It doesn't release as well. I've got women that become more constipated, women that can't sleep as well.
From a relative standpoint, that water fluctuation is a lot heavier.
Absolutely. They just store a lot more. And not to say I understand females' biology that way, but I believe it's their biology and the way they're made up.
Yeah.
Women store stress physically a lot more. So as soon as we start tackling the mindset side of things, their body releases a lot easier.
Yep.
The body performs a lot better. Now, the same applies to men in the sense that their emotions have a big factor as well. And it's one of the topics that I want to discuss now as well, which is anxiety or anything revolving around mental health and performance. And to explain it in two different levels, there's the top-down approach, which a lot of psychology believes in. We fix the mind and then the mind fixes the rest.
Yeah.
And then there's the part that I prefer, which is the bottom up, where you fix the body, you fix the nutrition, you put your body into a safe state, like we just explained, and that helps with the mind.
Absolutely.
I think when it comes to anxiety, whether it's fight week, whether it's training, and fixing, it's a double-edged sword, because in one way you absolutely want to fix the nutrition for performance. However, for a lot of people, like you said, not making weight, not being on weight, not performing, is a lot of things that affect the mental.
Yeah.
How have you found working with an athlete, fixing the bottom first, so their gut, their nutrition, their conditioning, making their body strong, then you'll see the turnaround in the mental performance as well.
100. I'm on the exact same page as you there. I'm a more of a bottom-up kind of approach, or that's the kind of approach I take with my coaching for sure. Because in the end, all you're doing there is stacking proof that you've done things the right way and you've actually taken care of consideration for your body, for your performance as an athlete. And the way I like to frame it is, You know, if someone's doubting the process, if they're 8 weeks out from a fight and there's still a long way to go, it's like, picture yourself, visualize yourself. You know, we can, I guess, from a top-down perspective, if you're using visualization, you're stepping through the ropes, opening up the cage, stepping on the mats. Will you be more or less confident if you know from a physiological standpoint you've managed training load better, you've been able to sleep at a high quality, you've been you've been timing your carbohydrates the right way, you've added this into a meal when you haven't been adding it in prior your whole career? Would you have more or less confidence in your approach, your ability to perform, if you knew you ticked all the boxes? So. Yeah, I'm 100% on the same page.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always say I'm a big fan of visualization, obviously mindset. But visualization, without the evidence, your mind calls bullshit on it. So it's one thing to visualize it, but then put the fucking proper practices in place to actually follow through with it as well. Because when you visualize yourself being at that elite level on fight night, and then you back it up with day-to-day evidence, your brain starts believing that visualization. But if you're showing up winging it, your weight isn't changing, your performance isn't improving, your brain's going to call bullshit on you.
Yeah.
Based on all the topics we've discussed, and I think we've already answered a lot of it, but why have you found fighters quit or want to quit?
Yeah, it's a combination based on what I've seen. I think doubt from a couple losses, you know, and looking at losses from I guess a negative perspective rather than a database perspective. That can be big. That can weigh on people's minds a lot. It can end up with, you know, people taking sort of extended breaks rather than just, you know, getting back into it and looking at what went wrong, what we can fix. So yeah, one perspective on the losses. The other thing is just how draining camps are, and I guess not focusing on longevity is going to lead to you resenting it. Like the one thing that very much sparked your joy for life can easily flip on its head and become the thing that makes you stay in bed all day and, you know, leaves you in a depressed state. So that's, especially with combat sports, it's vicious. It's not like it's an amazing cool thing you're doing, but cool things in life come with their trade-offs and their risks. If you open the door, allow any of that to happen, you allow the chance of that, it can happen. So I guess taking care of your nutrition, fueling well, you know, understanding that combat sports in essence has become, whilst you're active, whilst you're an athlete, it's also the antithesis of health. Like you're jumping into the ring to fight another trained individual. You should be putting in your best effort to take care of your body, your mind. You're your business card. You're your business. You like Alex Hormozy said.
You're the product.
Exactly. You're the product. You're like, invest in the S&Me 500.
Yes.
You know? Not all this external shit. Because in the end, like, what are you going to be able to do, you know, at 25, 30 onwards, if you can't actually put resources back into yourself and see an external return, or an actual return from that. If you can't stack that proof, you won't be able to do it later in life with business. You won't be able to do it, you know, like you mentioned earlier, like some people crash and burn in their careers as fighters. But from I guess the characteristics of the fight journey, those same habits you develop are the same habits that a billionaire would use to create a crazy business.
Absolutely.
You're rowing in different boats, but you know, if you think about it like that, what care would have Elon Musk put into him creating these big corporations that maybe you're not doing for yourself in your sport? If this is what you care about, this is everything you're putting into life, are you actually doing everything you should be?
Yeah.
That's a big question you got to ask yourself, and most people aren't. And that's where the quitting comes into play, because maybe that's all of a sudden it hits you like a truck. You know, maybe I haven't been doing the right thing this whole time. Do I want to do something about it, or just quit and try something else? So
yeah, you know, it's really interesting because this is why I'm so passionate about the mindset. You know, I always tell people that mindset is the lens you view the world. Mindset training is then having the choice of what lens you put on to actually view the world. Yeah. And on your first point, when fighters suffer from losses, it goes back to what we originally said, zoom out. Like if you look, and one of the fighters I trained, Bailey Collins, who just recently won the state title.
He's a weapon.
Man, he's amazing. But when we first started, he hated fucking losing.
Yeah.
Like every time he lost, he kicked the shit up, didn't want to go back into it, would disappear for a little while. Yeah. And what we work specifically with him is this exact concept, zoom out. Because I told him, I go, when you look at your next 5 to 8 fights, if you continue to fight the best, and the guys he was losing at, man, fucking surviving the fight was a win. Like, he was fighting veterans in the sport at 2 years into the sport. Like, he shouldn't have even been in the ring with those guys on paper. And I went, losing those hard fights, when the time comes that you fight someone at your level for your state title, you're going to smoke them. And we really worked in that mindset because he fought the veterans here. He went to the games overseas and fought one of the best in the world. He kept stacking up the losses. But when he came on his state title fight, he walked through his opponent just because of all the hard fights he had. And for a lot of fighters, unfortunately, again, coming back to the ego, they look at these little moments of glory and not understanding, and to your second point, that you're creating the best version of yourself that then applies directly to life. Combat sports has an incredibly unique power with accelerating what you need to learn over life in decades within a matter of years. You get exposed to the deepest, darkest parts of your souls, your biggest insecurities, your biggest weaknesses in the most demanding way possible. If you can learn how to overcome these things and then apply it to every aspect of your life, you will have success in every element. You know, and not only that, when we look at life, I look at the past 20 years of my life and the most difficult moments, the biggest losses I faced, the moments that brought me to my knees, after that, because I kept pushing through, were the biggest successes and growths I've had. So I definitely agree with you. For a lot of fighters that are thinking about quitting, and I actually work with a number of fighters who are at that space where they're like, do I quit? Why doesn't it feel right? Why have I lost my passion? And apart from the mindset, the losses, all that thing, one of them is, I don't want to fucking cut weight again. I'm like, it shouldn't be that brutal just for you to have healthy nutrition going into it, that you're willing to give all of this up, everything you've achieved, your last 3 to 5 years of hard work, because you're already resisting the weight cut ahead of you because you've blown out. Now, one of my favorite topics, mental toughness versus science. And it's funny, on a lot of the other podcasts and interviews that I've done, I've gone, if we have a science bro sitting in front of us, he's going to pull apart all of our style of training because he's going to go, this is overtraining, this is not necessary, you're actually reducing performance. And I agree with that, except I'm also in the school of thought that mental performance outweighs physical. And the only way you're truly, like, physical performance is at a certain point you reach where then working through that level actually reduces performance. Mental performance works the opposite. And I think finding the right balance between the two, and I actually personally believe it should be 80, 90, 95% of your training should be based on best physical performance. But there should be the components, especially early in your career, where you absolutely break, and you only break when physically you're starting to reduce. What have you found is the right balance? Because you've come from like going for a PB deadlift, you don't want to push past physical performance or something's going to pop. But in a fight, you will go way past, like your hard fights that we get into, they are way past physical performance levels. They're places where people start digging parts of their soul they didn't even know existed. What have you found as such a specialist in the conditioning space versus the combat sports space is necessary?
Firstly, I want to let you know that you can have relief sitting across from me because I actually agree with you fully.
Good.
I agree with you 100%. I'd actually like to consider myself like anti-science bro when it comes to the whole S&C and nutrition space when it matters most, which is the skill. I will never, unless I need to and I see something stupid, I'll never step in and say this type of skills training your coach is putting you through is harming you. It's more, what can we do to enhance what's going on and stop you from doing extra stuff that isn't really related to the skill, like the group training, S&C, things like that, that I can then optimize for. But if you're in the skills room and you're not, like at most sessions, you should have at least one portion, whether it be 3 pad rounds, whether it be a bit of sparring or some clinching, where you're questioning why you're even doing the sport. It should happen every session. I'm like, for me, I'm looking at a fighter's schedule. wherever we can, there should be as much high quality skills training as possible in there.
Yep.
Whether it's 5 days, 6 days a week, maybe not 7, but that's what I'm working with. And 100% me, part of the reason, you know, I'm even sitting across from you now is because I've actually been through that myself, you know, with my coach Vin Lee, when I did 7 Muay Thai Victoria fights, losing my first 2 and winning the rest all in a row. The only reason I actually won those outside of the science, like, because I already came from the scientific background, I knew how to manage my own training. I actually hired my own coach, separate topic of conversation. I couldn't delegate and do everything myself because of how busy I was running a business and fighting and training for fighting. I hired my own coach as well, a friend of mine who studied with me to manage everything. But separate point, the first 2 fights, I was being a bitch. I was.
Yeah.
I was excelling quickly. I did a few interclub fights after 6 months. I hopped into my first amateur fight after 9 months of training Muay Thai. After the first time I hopped in the gym was 9 months before that, and only training on the heavy bag before that. And I got up to it, and I thought I was the shit. Got in there, I got my ass kicked by Jivan Calendar from Bones, Torquay. Shout out to Jivan, he's a good athlete. Even though I broke his nose in the fight, he walked me down the rest of the fight.
Yes.
And I'll never forget it. I was like, what is going on here? I look back and
I hit my PB. What happened?
Yeah. I threw a flying knee in this guy's fucking nose, and he just kept walking me down.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's he doing that I'm not? And then I realized it was just skin in the game, and enough reps and exposure to training where you're like, holy shit, what the fuck am I doing here? So I talked with Vin, and he saw me pushing hard and training hard, but he knew there were sort of things I wasn't doing and maybe skipping out on because of me holding myself back from a load management standpoint. I thought I wasn't getting sick, but I'd actually argue, like, you risking a couple times in your career as an athlete, getting sick here, pushing to your limits, pushing to the point where you're bedridden for a week, you won't know what your limit is until you get up to that point, and you can use it as data.
Yep.
You know, some people get to that point, they quit Muay Thai forever. I don't want to do that again. I look and I'm like, cool, this is my limit. Now I can actually blend that with a bit of science. I can adjust my training load, whether it's the reps I'm doing on a sprint interval modality, you know, a bit less strength volume. But then from then on, the reason I won those next fights was because of, you know, the intention I brought to every single session.
Yeah.
Like my air bike rounds were already demanding enough, but then I remember, like, you can see this all on YouTube, on the Honor Martial Arts YouTube channel as well, back a couple of years back, some of the training sessions I was dying, and it was happening more often. And all that led to was me, cool, I have to eat more now. I'm training even harder than I was before. I have to, rather than going, I'm going to overtrain, I'm going to give myself more resources to adapt to this training. Yeah. So I blended pushing my ass, like, balls to the wall in the gym with the science-based approach, and I became a better athlete because of it. And
absolutely.
Absolutely, I'm on the same page as you. You have to pretty much be dying every session you do.
Yeah.
To a point.
Yeah, see, I teach the fighters, like, you need to go in there and search for the suffering.
Yeah.
Because you have to go there and not be shocked when the suffering and the voices of doubt and fear and quitting show up, because that's what it's going to be like in the fucking ring. And that brings me to the point, because you just said it really well. And I always say this, there's no such thing as overtraining, there's only under-recovery. Now, I don't say it as in there's no such thing as overtraining, but I'm saying as long as you've got the balance of recovery in there, and I apply this to my business, I apply this to my life. Anyone that knows me knows I'm all or nothing.
Yeah.
However, one of the things I've learned over time, and I was really bad at this throughout most of my business life, was I just knew how to push. I just knew how to suffer. And if I wasn't suffering, and in some ways like recovery, and one of the things I teach a lot of the fighters who struggle with this is don't be ashamed of resting. Like, a lot of fighters have so much shame when it comes to resting. They're like, I feel lazy. I'm like, but you're going to perform better, and breaking that mental barrier. What steps do you implement? Or I know everything's individualized, but what do you consider recovery? Because like intermittent fasting, recovery has become this real fad nowadays. What do you consider as recovery? Because for a lot of my athletes, I'm like, you're not actually fucking recovering if you're suffering in the sauna and the ice bath.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some physical benefits to that, sure, but you're still putting yourself, your mental capacity and your physical capacity underneath so much pressure.
Absolutely.
What's recovery?
Well, like the great Islam Makhachev, the scholar, once said, I eaty, I sleepy, I trainy.
Yeah, nice.
It's literally that. It's literally that. As funny as it sounds, like I think recovery has become this. There's so many roots and branches that have grown out of this word recovery. Where the reality is, you should not be majoring in the minors if you're doom scrolling on your phone at night and I guess you sleep 5 hours a night and then you're wondering why you're tired during the day.
Yeah.
Some people do that their whole career and they get through it because they're resilient and they can. Not everyone's the same. Like for me, I need 8-9 hours or I can't wake up properly. So I'm either going to look at that and go, oh, no, I need to sleep in more. Or I can look at the night before and go, I'm going to systemize this and develop better sleeping habits. That's the reality. And then if you can sleep at a high quality, if you can consume enough calories relative to your total daily energy expenditure, your height, your weight, your training and skills commitments, work commitments, if you're getting enough energy in, if you're sleeping enough, that is recovery for me.
Yeah.
Then you can look at, okay, am I actually exposing myself to too much training load? I don't think you really earn the right to, me personally, like really get nitpicky about your training load and all the intricacies of how you periodize your training if you're sleeping and your eating habits are shit house.
Yeah.
So if you cover that first, cool, amazing. And part of that as well is to an earlier conversation we were having about like the long-term approach to, I'm not hesitant to push someone away from coaching with me if they somehow weave their way onto a consultation with me and, talk a big game on an application form, for example, and then I sense that they're in this for the short term.
Yeah.
I'm not hesitant in that moment because I want the best for that person to call them out on it.
Yep.
And say, I think you're in this for the wrong reason, right? I'd rather I don't coach you. Like you're in this for a 4 to 6 week quick fix.
Yeah.
When in reality, that's that same mindset of you wanting a quick fix, some magical pill that's going to help you become the best athlete possible. That same mindset and approach has led you to this current position where yet again, you maybe reached out to a coach or saved another reel that's in your save folder you'll never touch sort of thing. So I'd rather risk severing a relationship with a potential client there and saying, I don't want your money, I don't want to coach you because you're in this for the short term, if that's going to shift their mindset into a long-term approach. And I've had it happen before where I've reframed the way athletes are looking at their approach.
Yep.
And they'll look at my services, maybe even your services, as if like, hey, I need to talk to you for 2 weeks. Like, can I hop on some Zoom calls with you? Yeah, you might get a benefit, but what's it going to do for you long term? Like, this is a continued journey. So weaving it back into recovery, you can take magnesium glycinate because a reel said it would help you sleep. You can, increase your melatonin dose. You have to, becoming a true athlete and a high performer is about collecting a big armory of tools over time, but what use is having that armory if the foundations of that room you're keeping all the weapons is it could be blown over by a gust of wind.
Yeah.
You collect all these techniques. If your sleeping habits and your fueling aren't up to par, all those techniques are as good as useless. So
yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people watch too much fucking Instagram.
Yeah.
Like Instagram is not your coach.
100%.
And the problem with Instagram is, as some of these clips will come out only in 10 or 30-second clips, you're only getting the tip of the iceberg. And a lot of people are following a lot more online content, which is so wrong. Because, and I always say this, like, the best fighter doesn't make the best coach, because the best fighter knows exactly what he or she needed to make his body type, his mental capacity, his attitude, make him into the best fighter.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you into the best fighter unless you're a carbon copy of that person.
Absolutely.
Now, as we debate something very interesting, and that's going to trigger a lot of the combat sports guys out there. How important is running?
Running. This might come to a shock, but I'm not as opposed to it as other S&C coaches are, especially if the athlete comes from a background where they have a lot of a big history of camaraderie and running load under the belt already. For me, my job is to look at the culture, their experience, and what they're actually exposed to that's going to allow them to keep training for the longest time possible. I'm going to coach someone who's training out of Venom Muay Thai camp in Pattaya completely differently to the person I'm going to coach out of, Immersion in Melbourne. Like, because this person's working a full-time job but competing in an MMA amateur fight, and they need like a time-effective routine. This person here has a group of people surrounding him that all want to run to be around the team and develop this camaraderie. Why would I take that away from the athlete?
Yeah.
It's about, for me, I'm going to look at that athlete's whole training load, dissect it down, like really get them to be almost a nerd themselves about what they're doing in the skills room and collaborating with them. Okay, maybe we shouldn't run every day up to 8 kilometers, but we should run 4 days a week up to 5 kilometers.
Yeah.
That in itself is already a drastic enough change in volume. Where's the sprint interval training? Is there any sprint interval training in there? What do we need to adjust for you personally as an athlete? So yes, there's the argument that you're going to put too much, force through the calves, the legs, and develop shin splints. If an athlete is coming from zero and they want to run, I'm not going to make them run.
Yeah.
If they're already running, yes, it's fine. We got to blend the approach to suit them and bring in the optimal stuff after that. But yeah, most of the time, 70%, 80% of my athletes are using mainly off-feet modalities for their energy system development work. But there's still a good chunk that I'll advocate to run, because I'd rather you still show up to training consistently and get more reps in than sit there and go, shit, should I use the rower, the air bike, or the skill, or should I go run? Should I do hill sprints because this guy's doing hill sprints? Pick something and just fucking do it for you.
Yeah. I think there's two really important factors, and this keeps coming up. And fighters have to understand this, whether it's physical, mental, nutrition, conditioning, skills, consistency and individualization. These are the two most important parts. And there's absolutely no Muay Thai coach that would disagree. The benefit of showing up every night and working on your skill, and the benefit of you knowing exactly you as an individual, what you need to achieve for this next lot.
Intention, right?
Such an important part. Now, a little off topic, business of being an athlete, because you've developed yourself really well. So have I. I went from being a fighter to an assistant coach to a gym owner to a business coach to a mindset coach.
I know, I see your fucking ads everywhere, man.
Everyone sees my heads pop up everywhere. It's like, he does fucking everything for combat sports. But it is, because I love the sport and I love every aspect of this sport. And I've been in it now for 23 years. I've heard you talk about the development for a lot of these athletes to start making themselves into the product and then creating a business and building from that. One of the biggest things that I teach my athletes as well when I'm working on their mindset is it's important to be obsessed with the sport, but you need to be building a life outside of it for after the sport. And a lot of the times that can intersect. You can learn online skills through your sport that then it can apply to a business. You can learn strength and conditioning, nutrition, business while you're an athlete, and then work yourself out from there as well.
Absolutely.
What's your views on this?
I fully agree. I fully agree with that. In the end, you should use every opportunity you can to develop your skills. And if you're one-dimensional, like any other facet of life, you're going to remain in that box. You'll never be able to expand. And if like a weird example that just came to mind, because we're talking about like running and Muay Thai, there's a fighter called Antoine Pinto.
Yeah.
He was. I think he's a French guy, or hopefully he's French.
No, there's the brothers. They've been around for a long time.
But even both of them, I don't know them personally, but I've seen them from the outside from when I was younger. They both fought, on Glory, on one championship. They've lived in Thailand. I think they both know Thai fluently. They both have I know especially Antoine has like a full role as a TV personality in Thailand. Because at the same time as him fighting, what did he do? I think he probably put in the best effort to learn a new language, which is like it's going to literally grow your brain and protect you cognitively as a fighter. It's amazing. But then he's also establishing relationships. The thing to remember, that's a very specific example, but you don't know what's around the corner for you.
Absolutely.
If you you won't see it in the moment, but you don't know where you could be 6 months down the line, a year down the line, 5 years down the line. If while you're fighting and putting in this massive effort to show up training, do things the right way, maybe you've hired a mentor or a coach, you don't know what skills are coming your way that could change the trajectory of your life. It might be within combat sports, it might be elsewhere. Definitely have something going for you on the outside of fighting. And especially these days, there's so much opportunity out there, even with don't have to dive into AI and Claude bot and buying a Mac Mini or some shit like that. But like you can learn skills very, very easily.
Yep.
It's easy to say that, of course. You got to go out there and do it. But you could be an appointment setter for a business.
Yep.
You can be you can learn sales. You could create content and learn how to become an editor for
So many opportunities.
You can vertically integrate from there. There's. I think if you're stagnant and you think I'll be alright if I just fight, you're kidding yourself in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the things I realized, and from the older generation, especially the guys that were fighting from a young age, and they reached a certain age, 20, 21, where no social development, no social skills, no career development, the fighting has ended, they're burnt out, and they're literally young adults with nothing in their lives.
Yeah.
And that's devastating to see. And I'm sure you're the same as me. Like there's the stages of combat sports in my life. When I first stepped foot in the gym, I would have never fucking thought. Like me as an amateur fighter 23 years ago, didn't think I would still be doing combat sports related stuff 23 years later. And I've tried leaving the sport a few fucking times. Somehow it just drags me back in. And I think the same way as fighting is so uncertain. Your life, your career projections are so uncertain. And this takes us back to, are you using fighting to save your life, or are you using fighting to teach you how to live your life?
Yeah.
Because as we face all the obstacles in combat sports, which is an incredibly fast vehicle to show us all the skills we need to learn to be at a high level, you start applying that same mentality, and not with the risk of failure. In the face of failure, like you go into every fight, you're potentially going to lose. And this is what we spoke about, a lot of fighters quit because their ego gets crushed. But when you zoom out and you go loss, 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 then win, 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 because you learnt from those losses, the same thing happens in the career development. You might literally do every single thing that you just spoke about and fail miserably. The 10th thing is the thing that succeeds. Like a lot of people don't realize, like it takes so many failures before a success shows up. Like everyone sees my head popping up everywhere on social media. They don't understand the amount of mistakes, the amount of losses. Even what I teach, a lot of it was my business wins. A lot of it was my business losses.
You only see the highlights mainly these days,
It's so important for athletes because I can't emphasize this enough. And this is what I love about our sport. The guys that I coach on mindset, the biggest thing that I teach them is life, not fighting. Because once you can start reflecting on life, then your performance in the ring significantly improves.
Absolutely.
The same way that once you fix your nutrition in life, nutrition in the fight camp improves. Once your outlook and mindset on life changes, that's where your real performance. The fighter's mindset was originally created because I wanted to help men, and I realized men will never ask for help until they completely fall apart. So the fighter's mindset came as a product for marketing to hit the men's ego. And now I train men and women and everyone in that space. But I've always said it's performance psychology with a trauma-informed lens. So it's not just about, hey, how do I get my reps more or this or that? You need to understand your entire life and how it plays a huge part into that role.
Absolutely. Intention across all realms. Like the way you do one thing is going to feed into how you do something else. And,
Absolutely.
okay, if you're showing up to your job on time and you're going to training on time, but then you're not doing the very things that are going to help both of those. Okay, the job is in alignment with your future projections from a financial standpoint. Your training is going to help you in terms of life satisfaction and physical performance and health. But if you're not feeding all the fire possible into those two different avenues in all aspects, where are you going to be long term? You know, you got no foundation built under you. And I can relate to it as well in regards to, like, I'd go as far as saying, like, if you're investing in a mentor like yourself or a coach like myself, you're not just going to get what you originally were marketed to for. You're going to get the whole human behind it too. I'm often having conversations regarding life with my clients on a day-to-day basis. Like I'll be going through some check-ins, and then my next half an hour will take a turn going back and forth on voice messages with an athlete regarding something that's come up for them in their life that I've got experience with, because, you know, from 2019 when I came out of uni, for 4 years, I didn't, hit gold. I didn't have a viral video on Instagram until 2024. It took me investing in this mentor, getting burnt, and still understanding I still have to continue to do this even though it's hurt me already, to figure out how to, sell properly, market properly, and then you see the result at the end of it. That's the approach a lot. Again, it feeds back into the losses, zooming out.
Yep.
If you can continue, if you have deep conviction that what you're doing is correct, and long term, you can see positive outcomes from it long term, you've got no other option but to stick with it because you're going to see great results.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that people will learn is the best mentors, coaches have invested so much fucking money in mentors and coaches. Like, excluding my university degrees, which still make me cry at night, how much ridiculously priced they were. Throughout my time at Diesel Gym, learning how to grow, like, everyone goes, how the fuck did you get 750 members like in 5 years? And over that time, I probably spent over $100,000 in business coaches, marketing gurus. There were times where I was spending $500 an hour for marketing coaches in America to teach me how to run ads, to now through social media marketing, like everyone's like, we see your ads everywhere. I'm like, I'm not mates with Zuckerberg. He doesn't set them up for me. Like, I've spent, like, over the past 10 years, 6 figures easily, but I would say closer to the 200K mark invested, but all of it's a 10X return.
Yeah.
And you would have been the same as well. For a lot of people that are like, oh, 50, 60 bucks a week is too much. You're like, bro, like when you're going to that fight, that's minimal. And the skills you learn from having someone that's actually focusing on you one-on-one, like I don't do group sessions. I don't do group coaching because that's only tip of the iceberg. Like when I do seminars, they're for free because I'm like, I love helping people out. It's the individualization with the mentoring and coaching that makes such a big impact.
Absolutely. And if you're charging 50, 60 bucks out there a week, charge more. Just to
100%.
Charge double that, please.
Like, but that, people even resist to that amount, and you're like, how?
It's crazy.
How?
Crazy.
And if you've spent a month with a coach and you're questioning the price that you've paid them, you got a shit fucking coach. Pull out, find another one. Because there are. And look, in the people's defense, there are a lot of cowboys. There's a lot of people out there that promise the world. There's a lot of people that all their scripts sound the same. Credibility, exposure, reviews, these are the things you want to go
100%.
based on. Finishing off, identity and life after fighting, which I think encapsulates everything we've just spoken about.
Yeah.
What's your views on that?
Yeah, I guess I covered a fair bit of my stance on that in the last topic. But I think making the decision now that's going to impact where you want to be when you're 35, 40 with a family, whatever have you, that's super important. Like that should be, you should always invest with the end in mind, or act with the end in mind. Like, what is this going to do for me? Not the next year. What's it going to do for me in a decade from now? What can I learn from this now? That because if you're constantly thinking like that again, you're zooming out again, and you're not forcing yourself into this small time frame. But yeah, like you're more than just a fighter. Like you're more than just a business coach and a gym owner, and I'm more than just a coach, a performance coach. Like we're humans in the end, and we all have deep interests. I think if you dive too deep into one thing, you'll fall down that rabbit hole, and you'll stay there. And yeah, it's important to try new things and diversify a little bit. Experiment. I think that I'd go as far as saying, like, you being let's say you're a 23, 24-year-old combat sport athlete, and you work a job and you got a bit of money saved up, and you don't know if you want to continue doing that the rest of your life. Like, take a punt on something, take a risk. I'd even go as far as saying empty your fucking bank account.
Absolutely.
Empty it. I'd go as far as saying go into debt. If I've got a regret that I carry with me now, is when I was maybe 20. I'm 26 now. When I was 22, 23, before I came into the space in the I guess the presence I have now, and the impact I've made now, which I'm still grateful for, I'd be like a year and a half, 2 years ahead of where I am now if I went into debt.
Yeah.
A few, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, if you got that mentor earlier.
Yeah, 100%. Because all I did in that moment when I'm like, fuck, okay, this is all I want to do. I want to build a big performance company. I need to learn how to market and sell properly. Like, but I was back to identity. In that moment, I was thinking about who I am in that moment, but I wasn't thinking about the future version of me and what this means for them. Yeah. So when you're making a decision, think about what the future version of you would be doing. I like to visualize. Like I remember when I actually pulled the trigger when I had a bit more of a buffer, and it was still uncomfortable for me about like 4 or 5 years ago. And it's led to this now. The timing was crazy because the night before I did it, I was watching Interstellar. And there's that scene where Matthew McConaughey is banging behind this wall, like, don't do it, don't leave the room, don't go to space and go on the expedition.
Yeah.
It's like I think about it in that context. It's like I know there's a version of me out there that's knocking on that wall when I said no to mentor after mentor, coach after coach, because I was too scared to go into a little bit of debt that would have given me a shit ton of money back. So if you're a young athlete and you care about success in your life and you train hard, you work hard, you got some savings, but you know you want to do something bigger than you, greater than you, take a punt on yourself. Because you can always go back to the job. You can always...
It's always there.
It's always there.
Yeah.
It's always there. I'd even say try burn that boat as well. You know, just go, try something. But yeah, I guess a bit of a personal story there. I hope it can help someone because a lot of people are stuck in that position where they're like...
Heaps.
I just want
From business owners to coaches to fighters to normal people.
Yeah, it's shrouded in skepticism and the reluctancy to potentially get scammed. But I even go as far as saying the biggest scam you can fall for is thinking that everything is a scam, right? Like,
Yeah, true.
like my university degree was worth it for me because of the company I've built, but most people ended up happily getting scammed, like going 50, 60, 150K in debt to a university with a degree they're not even going to use.
Yeah.
But they're happy to do that and pay that off with their salary over time. But when it comes to like a skill they need to learn, you know, learning how to run ads, selling, whatever have you, to diversify yourself as a human and have figure out if there's something else out there for you that you can do alongside fighting, somehow it's a scam. But I'd say the biggest scam is like not allowing yourself to do that, because even then it's less of a scam to hire a mentor that actually does scam you, because there are people out there like that and they're pathetic.
Yep.
It's less of a scam to do that, burn that money, because all it's going to do
is teach you what's the right one.
Exactly. You're going to be able to filter through the bullshit and find a better mentor from there. But you wouldn't have been able to find that mentor unless you got rid of that mindset in the first place that was holding you back from actually investing in the first place. So,
man, I couldn't agree more. Like exactly what you said, I usually encompass in 2 statements. And the first one, when people go, you know, we start discovering what's your why? Why are you in this sport? And I always say to create the best version of yourself. So when you're looking at not only a year, 2 years, 3 years, down the path, when you're a father, a mother, you're in your career, business owner, how are you the best version of yourself in a decade?
yeah.
And then when you talk about taking a punt, what people have to fucking realize is don't be afraid to lose. Lose money, lose time, lose everything.
Yeah.
Because the best options, the best growth is on the back of that loss.
Absolutely. And that same thing applies to taking big fight opportunities too. Like think about how many fighters are out there who've used that same mindset to not take a big opportunity.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, there's a belt you can fight for, there's this fight that'll lead you to this fight, that'll lead you to this fight, but you never start the first one because you think, oh, I'm not ready for that, I'll think about it.
And guess what? You're never going to be fucking ready for it. You're going to lose and then you're going to become better.
Yeah, worst case, you get in there, get your ass beat, cool, go back to the gym and get on with it.
Part of the sport, like losing is, and I always say this, losing is such an important part of success. And I remember I heard this not long ago, and it was, if people really understood how difficult the road to success was, most people wouldn't start.
Absolutely.
Like, it's actually in some ways better that we don't know how difficult it fucking is. But the quicker you realize that you need to lose.
Yeah.
Like, you have to fucking lose. You can't go through this unscathed. It's like someone sparring and being disappointed every time they got hit.
Yeah.
Like, you need to get fucking hit. Like, that loss is just an important part.
Absolutely.
Kieran, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. We rock the boat.
I love it.
Guys, if you want to reach out to Coach Kyz through Instagram, once you start looking at his content, once you start going through his profile, you realize he's one of the top ones in the space and very niche to combat sports. And this is what a lot of people have to realize. There's a lot of generalized coaches out there, whether you're a business, a coach, or as a fighter. You need to understand having a specialist part of your corner, part of the game, is the game changer for yourself.
100%. I appreciate that a lot. It's been a pleasure, mate. It's a fantastic chat, and I 100% agree. If if you're a hobbyist martial artist out there, all the way to the elite level, and you want to offload that stress of your of the strength and conditioning realm, of the nutrition realm. There's a lot of stuff out there that it does get a bit hard to filter through. Like Frankie said, I'm your guy, and the Fighter's Mindset program is also something you're gonna have to put in your toolkit too. 100%. After chatting with Frankie here, absolutely.
Pleasure, mate.
Mate, pleasure. Happy to do it again as well.